In every cold case, the evidence sits and waits. A faded photograph, a cryptic note, a single strand of hair. These clues are locked away, sometimes for decades, waiting for a new key, a fresh perspective. Welcome to the Evidence Locker. I'm your host, Shay. Each week, we unlock a new file, examining the artifacts of an unsolved case. We'll piece together the timeline, explore the theories, and focus on the one piece of evidence that could hold the key. If only we could see it in the right light. Gallup, New Mexico, April 1986. A quiet community on the edge of the Navajo Nation. A place where families know their neighbors and children play in the streets. For the Cayedito family, it was home. 9-year-old Anthonette was the bright light of that home. Nicknamed Squirrel, she was known for being mature beyond her years, a caregiver to her two younger sisters, Wendy and Sinaida, also known as Sadie, and a dedicated student with a caregiver's heart. But in the pre-dawn hours of April 6th, that bright light was extinguished, leaving behind a cold case that has haunted her family and investigators for decades. This is the story of the disappearance of Anthonette Cayedito. The night of April 5th, 1986, started like many others. Anthonette's mother, Penny, went out for the evening with friends, leaving her 3 daughters with a babysitter. Penny returned home around midnight, sent the sitter home, and according to her initial account, stayed up chatting with Anthonette until about 3 in the morning, when they all went to sleep. The next morning, at 7 a.m., Penny woke the girls for Bible school, but something was terribly wrong. Anthonette was not in her bed. A frantic search of the house turned up nothing. Penny then noticed that the front door and screen were unlocked, which was strange because she was certain she had locked them. There were no signs of a struggle or forced entry. After a desperate search of the neighborhood yielded no trace of her daughter, Penny called the police. The investigation began, but from the start, it was clouded by confusion and conflicting stories. Authorities quickly came to believe this was a case of foul play, an abduction from her own home. A neighbor told police that they saw a brown truck parked outside the house around 6:30 that morning, but it wasn't considered unusual at the time. For 5 years, that was almost all investigators had to go on. Then, Anthonette's younger sister Wendy, who was 5 at the time of her disappearance, came forward with a terrifying story. She told detectives that sometime around 3 a.m., there was a knock at the door. When Anthonette asked who it was, a man's voice replied, "Uncle Joe." Anthonette opened the door, and Wendy watched in horror as 2 strange men snatched her older sister. She said Anthonette kicked and screamed, begging the men to let her go as they forced her into a brown van and drove away. Wendy said she never told anyone because she was scared she would get in trouble, or worse, that no one would believe her. However, her sister Sadie has stated she does not recall this knock on the door that night. A year after Anthonette vanished, a frantic, chilling phone call came into the Gallup Police Department. The call, only 40 seconds in length, was from a young girl. On the tape, you can hear her, begging to be believed. "I am Anthonette Cayedito. I am in Albuquerque." Before the dispatcher can ask where exactly in Albuquerque she is, an angry voice booms in the background. "Who said you can use the phone?" The question was followed by terrified screams and the sounds of a struggle before the line went dead. The call had been too short to trace. Penny Cayedito listened to the recording. She told investigators she knew the voice from the way the girl pronounced her last name, and that she could recognize her daughter's voice anywhere. The call seemed to place Anthonette in Albuquerque. It had been called directly to Gallup's police department, and now this may seem strange, but at the time, 911 was not yet nationwide, and children were instead taught to remember their local police and fire stations numbers, which could explain why the girl Nicole reached out to Gallup and not the Albuquerque police. 4 years later, another possible sign of life emerged. In 1991, a waitress in Carson City, Nevada, took note of a strange scene. A teenage girl with an unkempt couple. The waitress said the girl, who resembled Anthonette, kept deliberately dropping her fork. Each time the waitress returned the utensil, the girl would grab and squeeze her hand. After the trio left, the waitress found a napkin under the girl's plate. Written on it were 2 desperate messages. Help me and call the police. But by then, they were long gone. Was this Anthonette trying to escape after 5 years in captivity, or another young girl in urgent need of help? Sadly, we still don't know. As the years passed, suspicion began to turn towards Anthonette's own mother, Penny. She failed a polygraph administered by the FBI, at the time immediately raising red flags. Although we now know polygraphs are pseudoscience and not accurate, at the time this was cause for major concern. She no longer claimed to have woken up at 7 a.m. to find Anthonette missing. Instead, she said she heard a knock between 3:30 and 4:30 a.m. and told Anthonette to answer it. When Anthonette did not come back after 30 minutes, Penny claimed she got up to look for her, but then couldn't find her. Most damningly, during that same interview, Penny allegedly made what sounded like a confession. She reportedly asked the agents, "What if me and Emo did this? Would we both go to prison?" Emo was Emiliano Gardella, a friend who had reportedly been giving Anthonette flowers and gifts, even pulling her onto his lap, making her very uncomfortable. Penny told the FBI that there had been a plan for Gardella to take Anthonette to give her a better life, calling her daughter a problem. Despite this statement, no charges have ever been filed against her. The trauma of Anthonette's disappearance shattered the Cayedito family, and in 1999, Penny Cayedito died from liver cirrhosis and cardiac issues. She was only 46 and took any potential secrets to her grave. Investigators had hoped to interview her on her deathbed, holding out hope for a deathbed confession, but they arrived too late. So what happened to Anthonette Cayedito? The theories are as dark and tangled as the case itself. The strongest theories point to family involvement. That Penny, overwhelmed and perhaps influenced by others, arranged for her daughter to be taken away. Her changing stories and stunning confession to the FBI both support this heartbreaking possibility. Other theories suggest a stranger abduction, with the kidnapper using the name Uncle Joe to lure a trusting child to the door. There's also speculation that the disappearance was related to drugs. Anthonette was taken as collateral or payment for a debt. Today, Anthonette Cayedito is officially listed as a missing person, although the FBI believes she is likely deceased. Her case remains open with the Gallup Police Department. Her sisters Sadie and Wendy have had to live with the profound trauma and the hole left by their sister's absence. Wendy still holds out hope, stating, "I am not going to accept that she's dead. I need proof." The story of Anthonette Cayedito is a chilling reminder of how a child can vanish from their own home, leaving a void that can never be filled. But tragically, her story is not unique. Nearly 2 decades after Anthonette disappeared, another young Indigenous girl would vanish under similarly confusing and chaotic circumstances, sparking one of the largest searches in her city's history and becoming a symbol of a national crisis. When we return, we go to Regina, Saskatchewan for Part 2, the disappearance of Tamra Keepness. We now turn our attention to Regina, Saskatchewan, July 2004. In a small, 2-story house at 1834 Ottawa Street lived 5-year-old Tamra Jewel Keepness, a bright, energetic, and loving little girl. Her mother, Lorena, affectionately called her "My Little Einstein." She had a twin sister, Tanis, and a favorite pine tree down the block that she loved to climb. But between the night of July 5th and the morning of July 6th, 2004, Tamra would vanish from the home, becoming one of only a handful of children in Canada to disappear without explanation. Her case would trigger the largest search in Regina's history and become a tragic touchstone in the ongoing crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. The night Tamra disappeared was one of chaos and conflicting timelines. 3 adults were present at the home at various points. Tamra's mother, Anthonette Keepness, her boyfriend, Dean MacArthur, and a family friend, Russell Sheepskin. The evening began with an argument between Lorena and Dean. Afterwards, around 8:30 p.m., Dean and Russell left to go drinking. Later that night, around 11 p.m., Lorena put the children to bed and went to a friend's house a block away, leaving her 10-year-old daughter Summer in charge. The timeline becomes even more muddled after midnight. Around 3 a.m., Russell Sheepskin returned to the house, drunk, and later told police he saw Tamra sleeping on the couch. Shortly after, Dean MacArthur also returned and violently assaulted Russell on the front porch, punching him through a window. Russell then walked to the hospital for stitches, and Dean left for his aunt's house, a short walk that he claimed took him over 2 hours because he kept getting lost and passing out. Lorena came home around 3:30 in the morning, found the doors locked, and climbed in through a window. She saw 2 of her children on the couch before going upstairs to sleep. It wasn't until around noon the next day, July 6th, after her other children had left for a day at camp, that Lorena realized Tamra was gone. At 12:16 p.m., a family member called the police. What followed was the most extensive search effort the city of Regina had ever seen. Led by Sergeant Ron Weir, police, RCMP cadets, and hundreds of volunteers began a meticulous grid search of the neighborhood. The area was challenging, filled with overgrown yards, empty houses, and piles of garbage. Countless places where a small child could be hidden. Searchers peered into junk cars, down manholes, and sifted through reeking garbage bins in the summer heat. As the search intensified, so did the scrutiny on the adults who were in the house that night. Investigators were troubled by inconsistencies in their stories and gaps in their timelines. The broken window and blood spatter on the porch from the fight between Dean and Russell added to the grim picture. The family's history of social services and Dean's own history of domestic assault were also known to police. As one investigator noted, in most cases, children are hurt by those closest to them. This focus quickly created a rift between the family and the police. Anthonette Cayedito grew angry, feeling that investigators were wasting precious time focusing on her family instead of looking for her daughter. She was particularly incensed that an Amber Alert was not immediately issued. Police maintained that the case didn't meet the specific criteria at the time. The tension boiled over, with family members clashing with both police and the ever-present media, who were beginning to voice the question many in the city were asking: if it wasn't someone in the city, then who? Over the years, more than 1,700 tips flooded into police, but none led to Tamra. One false tip from a jail guard led to a week-long search of beaver dams and a ravine on the Muscopatewug First Nation, which turned up nothing. Years later, in 2014, a bizarre Reddit post featuring a scrawled map of the words "location of Tamra Keepness, check the wells" prompted another search on the same First Nation, again with no results. The reward for information was increased to $50,000, but it remains unclaimed. The theories surrounding Tamra's disappearance are numerous and painful. Some believe she may have wandered away and was abducted by a stranger. Others believe she became trapped somewhere and was never found. Many in the city subscribed to the rumor that Lorena and Dean had sold Tamra to pay off a drug debt. Lorena heard this theory most often and was even physically attacked for it, bearing scars for the rest of her life. From the beginning, the Regina Police Service has focused on the chaotic events and individuals inside the house at 1834 Ottawa Street on the night Tamra disappeared. Investigators have repeatedly highlighted terrible gaps in the timeline of events, particularly between 2:30 a.m. and 8 a.m. The 3 adults present gave accounts with inconsistencies and movements that police could not fully explain to their satisfaction. The level of intoxication and a violent fight between MacArthur and Sheepskin that night further clouded their recollections. Police have confirmed there were no signs of forced entry or a struggle in the home, which weighs against a theory of a random stranger breaking in to abduct the child. This suggests that whoever was involved in her disappearance either had access to the home or that Tamra left the home with someone she knew. The police have consistently stated that someone knows what has happened here, and that it doesn't happen that someone just disappears, strongly implying that they believe human intervention by a known party is the case. This aligns with the common investigative principle that in cases of missing children, the perpetrator is most often an adult known to them. The intense questioning of MacArthur and the subsequent removal of the other children from the home further underscore this focus. Though not an official statement, some officers have privately expressed the belief that Tamra's body may have been disposed of in the city landfill, a theory that presumes an event occurred in or near the home requiring the disposal of her remains. Through it all, Regina maintained her belief. She told a reporter, her voice full of grief, "Someone stole her. That's all I know. Someone stole my child." She never gave up hope, telling people, "I don't feel she's gone. I don't feel she's gone at all. I think she can still come home." Every year, the community holds a barbecue to honor Tamra and to keep her memory alive, a reminder that the search continues. The Regina Police Cold Case Unit is still in charge of the investigation. In a final, heartbreaking conclusion, Anthonette Cayedito died suddenly in May 2023 at the age of 49. She never learned what happened to her little Einstein. Anthonette Cayedito and Tamra Keepness, 2 young Indigenous girls born worlds apart, yet linked by a tragic and unsettling pattern. Both vanished from their homes in the dead of night. Both disappeared from chaotic environments filled with conflicting stories. Both left behind families fractured by grief, addiction, and the unending torture of not knowing. Their cases, decades apart, remain open wounds, powerful symbols of the systematic issues and the national crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls across North America. They are not just statistics. They were bright, beloved children whose futures were stolen, and somewhere, someone knows the truth. If you have any information about the disappearance of Anthonette Cayedito, please contact the Gallup Police Department. If you know anything about what happened to Tamra Keepness, please contact the Regina Police Service or Crime Stoppers. It is never too late to bring a lost child home. A full transcript of this episode, along with photos and links to official tip lines, can be found on our website at theevidencelockerpod.com. Thank you for listening. Join us next time as we unlock another case file here at The Evidence Locker.